Hello, hello. I am La Fata Turchina. Actually, you may not know that name, La Fata Turchina, but she's famous and I'm sure you know her. She is the fairy from Pinocchio. And the reason I am dressed like her, I've prepared for this for years, is that La Fata Turchina appeared to me in a dream vision just a few days ago. And interestingly, La Fata Turchina, so turchino, the color turchino in Italian, is dark, dark blue, night blue, the night sky blue. But we, the world, and Italians too, us Italians, what's the word? We messed it up, turchino with turquese. Turquese is turquoise. More, this color might be teal turquoise. So the misinterpretation of La Fata Turchina is the misinterpretation has been La Fata, the fairy with turquoise hair. But really, in the original Italian fairy tale, La Fata Turchina was dark, dark blue hair, more like lapis lazuli, and her connection was to the stars. So, La Fata Turchina is a famous but not as well known of her secret identity as a star fairy. So I'm wondering if La Fata Turchina is connected with Arcturian energy. Arcturus is the brightest, biggest star of the Boötes constellation. But what is this video about? What is this going to be about? What am I sharing? Well, I am Alessandra Giglioli, and it's going to be hard for me to share this. The topic of this is mystery illness. So, if your body is hurting, breaking down, if your body is not making sense to you, and or if you or your loved one is suffering from a mystery illness, this is my personal sharing. I don't have answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm just a person, human, fairy, friend, sharing something that's happened to me. So, I was in a wheelchair for 2 years, 2.5 years. Mystery illness. My knees were swollen. My legs were swollen. My brain was not functioning, and I went through x-rays, MRIs, blood tests, went to different doctors, went to different specialists, and there was no answer. They kept passing me to different people, and there was absolutely no answer. They were going to do surgery on my knee, exploratory surgery. Nobody knew what was happening. And the thing was, they didn't know why the swelling, they didn't know why the swelling was there. They didn't know why I couldn't walk. So I couldn't walk. I went crazy. I had to stop my entire life. I had to stop work. I hope I don't cry. I had to stop my whole identity of who I thought I was, how I thought I was, and how I was interacting with the world, because essentially I was completely stopped and I felt like I was dead. Part of me was dead and part of me was dying. I had the inflammation of the nerves, inflammation of the brain, inflammation of the face, still is a little bit swollen. It's everything is getting much, much better. I have a very normal, functional life, but I'm still working towards having the extreme health and fitness that I had before because I love it. And that was part of my identity. So, if we need a third dimensional diagnosis of what I had, I spoke with someone in Stanford who is part of the Stanford research team for something that I might have had or I have an unofficial diagnosis for. So, that is ME, which stands for myalgic encephalomyelitis, which means the swelling of the brain and the nerves. About 1/4 of the people who have this are in wheelchairs, which was what happened to me, or are homebound and cannot function at all. And I thought that the percentage was 75% of people cannot maintain a job. I also know that it goes to the extreme. It has a cognitive dysfunction, neurological dysfunction, and what was the other one? People who pass away from this have organ failure and a high suicide rate, which I definitely thought of because I didn't know what was wrong with me. And if I didn't know what was wrong with me, how on earth was I going to fix it? So what I want to share is not the specifics of what I had, because I think that unfortunately a lot of us are having or coming across mystery illness or mystery chronic symptoms, such as I have a lot of migraines, chronic bloating, chronic. So, well, we can ask why this is happening, and maybe I'll say this in a little bit, but I think the most important thing is how the heck did I get out of it, and what do we need to do to get out of it? The thing that I say is I needed to crack my own code. I needed to see what was I doing with my old identity and why did it need to come to a screeching halt and why did I need to rebuild myself? So those were the questions. I want to share that this could be called a shamanic death. This could be called a dark night of the soul. And I had other words for it, but I don't remember. A rebirth, a reset, spiritual awakening. I heard somebody on a TED Talk say that they were going through a mental breakdown or a nervous breakdown, which then equated to a spiritual awakening. It's hard to talk about. So as I was going through with this, I felt like an idiot. I felt like an idiot. I felt like a loser. I felt stupid. I felt outside of society. I felt broken. And I felt like I was wearing my shit. I felt like me breaking down. It's like, why am I breaking down? I've always been healthy. I've always been fit. I was assuming that I would always be fit and that my body would always be working very well because somehow I deserved it, or I was conceited, or I thought that spiritually I'm a healer, so nothing should happen to me because I'm magical. So there was maybe arrogance and a lack of humility. Maybe I had my root chakra up. No, I had my crown chakra up my root chakra. Maybe. Okay. The good thing was that I got to slow down. I was blessed that I was able to disengage from normal, regular life, from the spinning of the wheels. I was able to stop. The problem is that it tortured me because it had me stop for so long and it pushed me to be in a place of vulnerability for so long that probably I needed it because I had been navigating as being a warrior woman. I left Italy when I was 18 years old. Email barely worked. You didn't have those inexpensive calling cards, and I don't think, Skype did not exist, so you couldn't do free calls, or WhatsApp didn't exist, so it was very isolating. And I think that I went from Italy to America, Chicago, and I was blasting in, and I'm a strong warrior woman, and I went through drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and that blasted my identity because before I felt like a goody-goody, and I want to go back to being a goody-goody. But my identity had been greatly shattered when I went from Italy to America, and I embodied too much the warrior woman for a long, long time. And I think being the warrior woman too much is maybe a way that we have of embodying the masculine, toxic masculinity and the patriarchal system of full throttle, perfectionist full throttle, always being in go mode. Whereas I think that we needed, but I'm bringing it back to me, my personal, I needed to disengage from achieving, again, the full throttle, and I needed to be in no time, no space, nothingness. And it needed to be for an extended amount of time, several years, to be able to listen to other signals that are not just the patriarchal system. Because I feel like the colonizer patriarchal system of dominating and obliterating others and culture is detrimental to everyone. So the bad guy here isn't men, it's just the system that we're all navigating within. So I had to crack my own code of how I got my panties in a bunch. And I needed a lot of time to unravel myself and see every part of myself. I think I had a deep level of hatred, self-hatred, because I was not skinny anymore, because I had been skinny before. I was not fit at all. It's funny that everybody has their own perfectly designed problem, challenge, caboodle, dark night of the soul. Mine had me swell up on the face everywhere. And again, I'm still really quite a bit swollen in all sorts of places. And so I experienced feeling disfigured to the point that my knees were swollen and I couldn't walk at all. So for me, it got me really where it hurt, because before I had been a go-go dancer wearing short, skimpy clothes and being all excited about moving and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then to have my face swollen for so long and not recognize myself and not be able to move, and it got my pride. That really killed me. There weirdly is a great gift in being able to disengage from who you thought you were and to have sort of a mask on. And while you hate it and hate it and hate it and don't see who you really are, you get a break from all the construct of how you carefully built who you thought you had to be, with the pressures of how to live up to that. So it's really painful to have your identity broken, taken away from you, but yet it might be a really great gift, so that then you can come back as a fairy and saying, this is my true hair color. It's like long, thick, lovely hair, and I can wear lots and lots of blue on my eyes and say, this is who I am. Well, for the next 10 minutes, it's me. But there's a certain amount of massive freedom that comes from the rebuilding. So how did I reconstruct? How did I get out of the wheelchair? The biggest thing is that when I got freaking pissed off at everyone, I got pissed off at my guides, I got pissed off at Source, I got pissed off at myself, I got pissed off at everybody, I was screaming. I had to somehow believe that the body intelligence, that my connection to Source, the Creatrix, the One, the All, Mother Goddess, Father God, let's call her Mother Goddess, that my connection was really strong, and that all of our connections are or can be really strong, and that I had to find my own magic, and I had to find ways of allowing that magic to come into me. And I think that's the biggest, hardest thing, was to be positive and stay positive despite the fact that I couldn't frickin' walk, I couldn't function. I had a 2-hour window of time during the day where I was semi-normal and I could maintain a conversation with someone, or that I could go out on the wheelchair or walker, but I could barely take a few steps out with the wheelchair or walker, and then I get mad and pissed and cry. And so somehow I had to find my inner strength and stay with my inner strength and stick with it. I went to a bunch of energy healers, acupuncture, and everything made me feel better. It made me feel my body. It made me feel myself. But I began to feel myself in a new way. And I began, I don't know, to believe in the magic of the body. I had to really stick with it. I had to be my own best friend. And again, over and over again, I had to crack my own code, because the answer wasn't anywhere with any alternative healer. It wasn't with any video. It wasn't with any of the million books that I read. But everything helped me. Everything was a little piece that I was reclaiming and working with and building the bigger puzzle of who I was. But ultimately, I really knew, and I felt like this was a shamanic rebirth. So throughout time and history throughout the history of human civilization, shamans have done this over and over again. They create this environment that me and other of us that are going through mystery illnesses, they created it. They would either go walk in the desert for 3 days or longer or a year, sometimes a lot of times without food, and they would do like sensory deprivation and then have visions, but they would create ways in which they would die. In some cultures, they took it really extreme, and I think they would take herbs and things where they did stop their heart rate and die for a few minutes. And then in those few minutes, they would have hours of shamanic experience. And with all of these, a lot of this information, I read it from the book Supernatural by Graham Hancock. He summarizes it really well, but I had read it in other places too. In all of these shamanic systems, the shaman dies and rebuilds the body, and often the shamans get other dimensional spirits, being forces, frequencies to come in and download crystals or light or other devices. I'm going to stick with crystals, and rebuild themselves so that they basically, I don't know if this is a good way of saying it, they would Jesus Christ themselves. So Jesus Christ went through a death, and then he had his ascension. And in his ascension, he is more glorious, like a better upgraded version of him, right? So the shamanic rebirth this is also, I think, is this part of the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell? Comparative mythology right there. So the shamanic rebirth means that you're coming back and you're reborn, but better than ever upgraded. And so they would have crystals within them, or have I wanted to call it new ley lines, but it's meridians. So new light pathways within them. And then that was the birth of the shaman. Sometimes the shamans do this over and over again. So they would go back to their village or wherever they are and have this newfound information that came from other dimensional realms. So in my language, what happened to me is I was figuring out my own brand of magic, my own code, what makes me happy. Because for different people, it could be crystals, it could be Mother Mary, it can be Jesus, it can be all sorts of other things. For me, it's always been fairies and star fairies and crystals. So for me, I recorded an 8-minute audio of me guiding my cells and mitochondria to bring in more light. Mitochondria is the little organelle, about hundreds of thousands of them in each cell, that has its own DNA called mitochondrial DNA, which is matrilineal, and it is the power source. The mitochondria brings in, it's like photosynthesis. The photosynthesis in plants literally changes light from the sun into energy. The mitochondria changes glucose and other things from our body into energy, but also I think it tunes into other lights, other frequencies if we are open to that. So we need this added booster of energy source. So I did this guided meditation, having the cells and the mitochondria up boost themselves, and I felt really high each time I took it. And in my language and in my light and in my magic juice was what I call, and what I've been having visions of for years, is this Aldebaran stargate, this light, this stargate of white crystalline light that happens to be in the constellation of the constellation of Taurus, that has the Aldebaran, the brightest star. And so that is where I keep getting visions of crystals and plasma, and it's just this added booster of light, and it just goes, it's just like, for me. And that was my recharge. And I felt this liquid white light coming inside of me and pushing out, virus energy, because behind the myalgic encephalomyelitis, which might be triggered by Epstein-Barr virus. Epstein-Barr virus is the virus that is behind mononucleosis. And it can be in your system and can be very dormant, but it can eat your nerves. And it's fed by stress and the toxins in food and the environment. So it can be really thriving in our daily culture and community. So I was visualizing the virus and the dead virus bodies, if there is that toxicity, to be pushed out by the light that I was bringing in. So I do feel renewed. I do feel bigger, better, and stronger now. But it was a lot of hard work. I felt very alone when I did this, but I had to not be alone. So I had a lot of help and support from family and friends, because I couldn't support myself for a few years. Even though I sort of did, which is weird. Financially, I don't know how it happened. The universe provided that. I know of other people that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt because they're going through their journey of mystery illness. So I have been extremely blessed by the universe to have been supported in this way. So, bottom line is, we're magical. We don't know how, what, when, why, or where we are. But we really are, and we have all the inner technology that we need to be phenomenal. And my question is, how phenomenal can we really be? How much can we push the envelope of human potential? I think that we don't need any kind of enhancements at all, because we still haven't figured out the amazingness in our human body and the amazingness of the interface of our light body, our soul, and how it interacts with our physical body. So I think we're in for a great surprise when so many of us will be now pooling together our ideas, energy, resource, and experiences with mystery illness and with the forming of our own magic. So keep on doing what you're doing, adding an added layer of superpower boost, and let's all develop our superpowers in our own unique ways and help each other out. I hope all of this made sense, and if it didn't, booyah!